we'll go back to Trump too, but let's go to the pardons, because this is just egregious. Everybody under the sun. I mean, the J6 committee members, his entire family, right? Mark Milley and Dr. Fauci. And by the way, the pardons go back, especially Fauci, go back to 2014. It starts in 2014 forward. What the hell was he doing in 2014? It's because he funded gain-of-function research. It's because he was behind the problem that caused the damn pandemic.
I read it differently, actually. I thought he was just trying to normalize the date he set for Hunter. And he's like,
also possible.
Hunter's went back to 2014, so like that's going to be the date for everyone. Because I think his families did too. For the Crooked brothers and the in-laws.
Well,
like that just became the date for, it did.
Yeah.
But like the sister-in-laws, I don't really know. But the statement that went with the pardons for his family. I mean,
I gotta find it.
We got to assume like Biden didn't write this, but we can't expect him to have any level of self-awareness. But
true.
I just pulled it up on my phone where he says that he's protecting them against baseless and politically motivated investigations. Yes. And he says they wreak havoc on the lives, safety, and financial security of targeted individuals and their families. Even when individuals have done nothing wrong and will ultimately be exonerated, the mere fact of being investigated or prosecuted can irreparably damage their reputations and finances. That is, and he called it the worst kind of partisan politics. Coming from the ostensible leader of a party that pioneered and used lawfare as its primary electoral strategy, it really is galling.
Yeah.
It's just shocking. And for them to think that they always said Trump was going to do it, and he may have egged on his crowds to say, lock her up. Yeah. But he then actually didn't sic the Department of Justice on his political enemies when he got in there, and I think said to advisors, like, I'm not actually going to do that. But now, what leg do they have to stand on if Trump wants to go in and preemptively pardon his entire White House staff and go after his political enemies?
He should do that. But to me, that's not even the point.
The Hunter pardon and this pardon are shockingly hypocritical.
Yeah, agreed. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Biden literally campaigned on not doing that. There are sound bites of Joe Biden in 2020 saying, as he's being asked in the campaign trail, I will not pardon my family. Donald Trump is going to do that. I will not. I mean, it's part of how he convinced Americans to vote for him. It's just disgraceful. It's disgusting.
Let's see. Hold on. We have in SOT 15, I think, some of that. Yeah, here's Biden, December 2020.
President Trump is reportedly considering a wave of preemptive pardons. Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. You're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons.
You're not? Really? And they were all saying it. By the way, Adam Schiff was on camera. He got a pardon because he was on the J6 committee. Liz Cheney got a pardon.
And all the staffers.
Yeah, all the staffers. Kinzinger. Right. He was just out 2 weeks ago saying I wouldn't take a pardon.
And by the way, they don't have to accept them.
That's
they
right.
Could say,
but there's a question
wrong
about whether it's valid if they don't accept.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there's a legal debate on whether you must say I accept. And I think most lawyers say, yeah, you do. You have to say I accept it in order for it to be valid for you. And but I really think, so the Fauci one is the one that has me most ticked off because I really do think Fauci lied repeatedly to Congress. And Rand Paul certainly thinks that, and I think was preparing to go after him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what else Fauci did. I mean, we've never been able to find the smoking gun evidence that he actually was behind the COVID virus, the one at issue, but he definitely funded gain-of-function research, which is very dangerous, including in the Wuhan lab, through this Peter Daszak group. And we just were never given the information to close that last loop. It would be wonderful to get it under the Trump administration.
Well, none of these guys can plead the fifth if they're called before Congress.
So that's the silver lining. Mm-hmm. They all have to testify fully. They cannot plead the fifth. And by the way, it doesn't stop any investigations whatsoever, or civil lawsuits. And you know what else it doesn't stop?
Or state lawsuits.
State prosecutions. Right. State prosecutions. You can be prosecuted by the state. A federal pardon does not. That was Trump's problem, remember?
Right.
We were saying like he could pardon himself, but only for the federal crimes, not for those state prosecutions in New York or in Georgia. Well, guess what, Dr. Fauci and J6 committee members and General Milley, you're all in the same position. And, somebody was pointing out online, let's be real. If they were prosecuted by the feds in Washington, D.C., not a one would be convicted of anything, given the jury pool here. Nothing. So, it's galling, I agree. But realistically, they weren't going to get convicted.
Biden made the point that they wouldn't be convicted. The process is the punishment.
I know, but in a way, but like to your original point, so what did we really lose? Because we weren't going to get convictions of any of those people. And yet now Trump has cover to pardon all of the people who actually are in danger in this jurisdiction. All of them.
Yep. And I think even just from a big picture perspective, we don't want to lose our sense of shock at this type of like banana republic behavior.
Yes.
And James Biden, I had actually in the Biden tornado of corruption over the last half decade, forgotten that he's obviously lied to Congress. And James Comer recommended that he be prosecuted. He recommended it to Merrick Garland's Department of Justice, so obviously dead on arrival, but would have pursued it had James Biden not been pardoned, because James Biden said, he said straight up that Joe Biden did not meet with their business partners while they were seeking a deal with these Chinese businessmen. We know that that is not true. That is a lie. He lied to Congress, and now he's pardoned for it. But that was a lie to cover up corruption. That was a lie to cover up corruption on behalf of the president, not just his relatives. And yeah, it's gone.
He didn't pardon himself, which is interesting. And I'll tell you, the one thing that jumped out at me was Mark Milley, who issued a statement saying, hold on a second, I have it here, in part. Okay, he said, my family and I are deeply grateful for the president's actions today. After 43 years of faithful service in uniform to our nation, protecting and defending the Constitution, I do not wish to spend whatever remaining time the Lord grants me fighting those who unjustly might seek retribution for perceived slights. I do not want to put my family, friends, and those with whom I served through the resulting distraction, expense, and anxiety. Really? How are you any different from Donald Trump, who's 78 years old and really didn't want to spend the time he had left fighting for his freedom in 4 different jurisdictions, right? All of these Democrats, I assume, I don't know what Milley is, but he certainly sounds like a Democrat and he behaved like one at the end of Trump's term, want such sympathy for themselves. Like, poor me, the evil Trump. They have absolutely no empathy for him or take no responsibility for what they did, what they've been doing to him for years now.
And their own role in it, right? Like it doesn't occur to them that they may have contributed to the problem. They're still unwilling to admit that. And that's what I saw from Gayle King too, when she's out there waxing poetic about how she doesn't see any people of color at Trump's inauguration. It's like, you're missing the entire point. You were still missing the entire point. The host of Celebrity Apprentice just beat you in an election twice.
Yeah. Increased tariffs on our trade partners, tax cuts, regulation changes. There's a reason why gold is a diversification tactic in a market that remains uncertain. Now more than ever, Birch Gold is releasing their ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era, with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. to get your free copy, along with Birch Gold's free information kit on gold. Just text MK to the number 989898. Here are the facts. The national debt continues to increase. Our interest payments on the national debt continue to increase. Gold can be your hedge against a weakened dollar. And Birch Gold can convert an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Text MK to 989898 and get your free copy of the ultimate guide for gold in the Trump era. There's no obligation, just information. Wouldn't you like to know why everybody's rushing to gold? With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers, find out more about Birch Gold. Text MK to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.